That day, I stopped trusting people. I stopped trusting everybody in the entire world
Yeah.
because of what my sister did. Besides, I hated the world that day. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, how am I supposed to get any help if I wanted to go anywhere?
Hmm.
I just, that day, I still, even this day, it was just like, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And I keep having hope, like maybe she'll show up maybe middle of the night, maybe next day. Weeks go by, months go by, years go by, never seen her again. So that day on, I have never really smiled at anybody because I lost trust.
Hey there, and welcome to Money and You. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. My search for more fulfilling work led me to career and business coaching, where I stumbled upon a game changing discovery. Money issues often start with our mindset and habits. You see, our relationship with money is the key to overcoming those frustrating financial obstacles. As an entrepreneur, coach, and problem solver, I'm passionate about helping you create a great relationship with money. Because, turns out, that's the foundation for a limit-free life. Each week on Money and You, I speak with amazing guests about all things money, mindset, practical tips, and everything in between. We're here to give you new insights, education, and empowerment so money can be one of your favorite relationships. So join us for some lively conversations and let's transform your financial life together. Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Money and You Show. I am so excited about today's show. I have such an interesting and really important guest who is going to just inspire and enlighten you. We're going to get to some really in-depth financial topics that I think you're going to find amazing, which is how she went from being an orphan to a millionaire. So you're going to learn all about that, but you're also going to learn about transition in your life and how to go from a place of relative hopelessness to living your best and freest life. So please stick around for the whole show because you are going to love this. And I was so inspired when I met this woman, and we scheduled a 15-minute sort of pre-call to see about coming on the show. And we ended up talking for about an hour and 15 minutes. And then I spent the rest of the week telling everybody I knew about her. So I'm going to give you a little brief intro into Sun Yong Kim-Manzolini. And she is the CEO of Lush Enterprises, LLC, where she's paying it forward by teaching other people, particularly single mothers, how to use her unique miracle system to track options so they can spend less time working and more time on what matters most. After retiring from her $35,000 a year job in December of 2015, with no money in her retirement accounts, Sun Yong threw herself into options trading and quickly surpassed her goal, making $178,000 to 6 times her income that first year. She believes that true freedom is the ability to be who you want to and to do what you want without fear and intimidation, and to live out your dreams with financial security. And it's is dedicated to guiding people toward long-term success. So Sun Yong, welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so excited to
I have been
be
really
on your
looking forward to this
podcast.
show, and I am very grateful that you are taking the time to be here today. So thank you so much. So we are going to dive in right away, and I am going to just open the floodgates here for you to give people a bit of an introduction into who you are. So,
Sure, sure. As Michelle mentioned, I'm a CEO and also founder of Lush Enterprises, LLC. And it's the company that I decided to create way back in 2016 when I retired. But just kind of going back to where I came from was I was born in South Korea. And I lost my mother at a very young age. And then quickly after that, I found myself and my sister, we became an instant orphan because right after my mother passed away, my dad decided to just abandon us. He just didn't tell us where he was going. He just told my older sister said, you need to take care of Sun Young for the rest of her life. And that's all I know. And he just left. So I never knew my parents' name, but only person's name that I knew from my birth family was my sister, that who's supposed to be in charge of me. Her name was Kim Sunja. I didn't know anything about her birthday or anything like that, other than she was my only hope. But as a young age, when my dad abandoned us, I quickly just installed something into my brain saying, oh, why is he doing this? Doesn't he have enough money to take care of me and my sister? Where is he going? Like, I had so many questions as a little girl. It's like, what kind of job people have to make enough money? Or how much money do they have to survive? All these things kind of went through my mind, and I just kind of lived my life. And so my sister and I, we were in an orphanage, and she worked there as a like a helping with the staff. And I remember in that first orphanage that I was in with my sister, there's two things that I realized. First one was I realized that my family was normal, meaning what my dad did to us was normal. The reason is because at least once a week or twice a week, the staff workers at that first orphanage which was in Mokpo in South Korea, they would open the front door because they hear the baby cry and they would pick up the baby and say, oh, we got another baby dropped up at our front door. And so after observing that, and that, oh, okay, my family's normal. So then I thought, okay, I didn't think anything of it. Another thing that I realized or at that orphanage was other kids were playing outside, and I thought, why can't I go outside and play with them like my friends? But see, I realized that I couldn't stand up. I knew that I could never walk because I never walked. And I just scoot myself point A to point B from room to room, or, is by scooting myself with my hand on my right knee and scooting my buttock and got around like this on the floor.
Wow.
But when I was watching other kids playing, I thought, why can't I play outside? I want to, but realizing I couldn't stand up. So I thought, boy, I need a lot of help. Then a couple of years later, my sister showed me a picture about little 3x6 card size picture and saying, this is where I'm going to take you. And I said, what do you mean? She says, I have no choice, but I have to take you to this another orphanage. And I said, but we're doing fine here. And I don't want to separate from you. Unless you're going to be there with me, that's the only reason that I would go. But if you're not going to stay there with me, then I'm not going to go. And she says, well, I have no choice. I don't know how to teach you how to walk, and you need to learn to walk. And so this is the place that they're going to teach you. And I said, but you don't understand. I don't want to learn to walk. Silly me as a little girl.
Right.
I don't care about anything but just being with my sister. That was my most prideful, most things that I could ever trust, only hope that I had. And so I just didn't want to separate from her. But after talking, back and forth, she ended up taking me to that orphanage, which was in Daejeon. And I went to that orphanage. I was so shocked because I have never seen so many kids that are handicapped. Like there's not anybody walking normal other than just my sister and my staff worker there. But every single kid over there was getting around with the wheelchairs, with the limp, using crutches. I was just like so shocked. I have never seen it all at once.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's just, I was really scared because I didn't know there was people like that all over the world. But then there was me. I couldn't even walk, so I have no room to talk, right?
Yeah.
But I was just really scared. And then when we got there, the lady that greeted us and my sister and the staff worker talked for a long time. It seems like forever. But at the end of the day, my sister finally, I was like holding on to her, like I was never going to let go of her. So I just was hanging on to her hand. And the whole time she was talking to the staff worker. And finally she had to tell me that she had to go to the bathroom. And I said, okay, if you have to go to the bathroom, let me go with you. And other times she said yes to me, but this time she says I couldn't go with her. And I said, that's so strange. We always went to the bathroom together because I was a little girl and, she was my older sister. Uh, Beside that, I couldn't walk. And so that's probably why she had to take me to the bathroom every single time. But she says, well, you can't come, but I will come right back. I will come back, I promise. And we pinky promised each other and saying that she's going to come back for me. But something tells me inside of me that I just couldn't let her go. But she was begging. She says, I have to go to the bathroom. So I finally ended up letting her hands go. And she did go to the bathroom, I thought. And she told me that she was going to come back for me. Pinky promised. And she never came back. That evening, that day was the worst day in my life. That day, I stopped trusting people. I stopped trusting everybody in the entire world
Yeah.
because of what my sister did. Besides, I hated the world that day. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, how am I supposed to get any help if I wanted to go anywhere? I just, that day, I still, even this day, it was just like, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And I keep having hope, like maybe she'll show up maybe middle of the night, maybe next day. Weeks go by, months go by, years go by, never seen her again. So that day on, I have never really smiled at anybody because I lost trust, and I never talked to anybody. There was no reason for me to talk to anybody. Why should I even talk to anybody and start liking somebody and then ended up like this again? So I just didn't want to take a chance because of the fear of getting to know somebody and then having horrible things happen to me again, being a neglect and abandonment. So that second orphanage was rehab center and slash orphanage. And so a lot of the kids, 100% of the kids had a handicap, but about 80% of the kids had a family, and maybe 15 to 20% of us didn't have a family, but all of us were handicapped. So I was there, left there to learn to walk, and one of the staff worker would show me how to hang onto the rail against the wall that they had long hallways and very long. And just, she says, just hang onto the rail and then just learn to stand up. And then once you do that, then sit down. And then stand up, sit down, stand up. And it just took step by step. And I did that for the longest time. We never had a physical therapy or occupational therapy like Americans have. So it was just on my own. But she did show me the steps, what to do. So every single day, 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday, I had nothing better to do but that. Because I wanted to learn to get around with like other kids did. And I wanted to go outside and do whatever, but I had to learn to walk. So it took me about 2 years or so. I would say I was about 6 or 7 years old. First time I stood on the ground, not holding on to anything. Like there was no rails, there was no chairs, there was no one for me to hang on to, just standing up on the floor. And they encouraged me to take a step. And I was just so scared. Again, that moment was just like, it happened like maybe yesterday or even earlier this morning. I remember they says, take a step. And I said, I just can't. And they says, yes, you do, because we watched you, walking, hanging onto the rail. But I said, but this time I don't have any rails to hang on to. I don't have anybody to like sitting or standing next to me to catch me in case I fall, or there's no chair for me to sit down, anything to hang on to. So I just couldn't. And they says, you have to. This is the only way they're going to find out, And I said, okay. So I remember just standing on the ground, just looking down at the floor, shaking like crazy. And my whole entire body was shaking. And I just took one step with my right foot. And as I was taking a step and I was like really shaky and going like this, I thought the floor was going to move. That's how I'm sure I was. And I took a step and nothing happened. Floor didn't move. I didn't fall down. I wasn't hanging on to anything. And I just said, oh my gosh. And they just cheered me on and they says, take another step with your left foot this time. So I said, okay. Again, it was scary, right? Because I have never taken a step with my left foot.
Wow.
But I just did it with the right foot. So with all my, I was just sweating. I was just really scared. And I thought, I cannot believe that they have me
Yeah.
take another step. So I took another step and realizing that floor didn't move, nothing happened. I didn't fall down. And I just said, wow, like I did it. I took a, step without falling, hanging on to anything. So that was a huge moment for me.
You know, if I can just interrupt for a moment, I feel like that because I didn't hear that. I heard the story, but not told exactly how you just told it. And I feel like it's almost like a metaphor for the steps you took going forward, all the way to, how you've been able to navigate money. So
Yes.
I did. I mean, there must have been something that got into your subconscious and shifted your mindset to be braver and to take risks because
Yes.
you had to do it
Yes.
then. Yeah.
Yes. And so from there on, I realized like, well, there's more things that I could do. So then next thing, like I'm going to go forward from here on and take you guys to where I was able to make my dream income was that in that orphanage. Another thing that I did was like, I wanted to chew gum. And as an orphan, I had no money. And how am I going to accomplish this, something that I want? And it was impossible. And I was really embarrassed and I was too even shameful to even ask a friend that had a family that gave them a gum or bought them a candy or something. I could have asked, but I was really ashamed. And who would want to help an orphan? So I thought, I'm going to go outside because by then, I was like walking. So this was like maybe I was like 9 or 10 years old. One of my girlfriend and I, we did a coolest thing ever as a teenager or pre-teenager was that finding a gum to chew. So we went outside and we picked up a gum that was on the street
Oh,
that has been walked on by I don't know how many 30 feet, how many years it's been there. And I picked up the gum from the ground and I literally picked it up because it was just settled down, it's like all the way into the hole. And I picked it up and I took out like the biggest rock that I could pick out. And I didn't have a water to, I didn't even want to go inside, into the building to wash my gum, just kind of brushed it up, picked out rocks and then pebbles, whatever. And I chewed it. And I thought it was so cool because I thought my girlfriend and I, we looked at each other like, this is so cool. We chewed gum.
wow.
But it was a little crunchy and it was just a chewing gum. And I thought it was so cool. And I'm like, oh, wow. So that was my next thing. I realized like, well, I could do this. I did it, without asking somebody, without, like thinking about how am I going to get this or I'm not, where am I going to find it? I just went outside and I thought there's got to be a gum. There has to be a
Wow.
gum, somewhere.
Yeah.
So I did that. So that's my next thing. And then along the journey, of course, I was, a special needs a child in that orphanage because I couldn't walk, but I did learn to walk, but my legs were very crooked. And then at that orphanage, kids were making fun of me. They were calling me names. They bullied me. And I thought, what's wrong with them? Like, what's wrong with me? Are they making fun of me? Why are they bullying me? And so I had to find out. And we didn't have any mirrors to look at while I was growing up. We never looked in the mirror. I never smiled. I never talked to anybody. My life was just without any purpose, just living from meal to meal. That's how I survived. I would wake up and we get breakfast and then when is next meal? What time is lunch? And I was still hungry because we didn't get enough food because they have so many kids to feed and everything. So at there, I thought, I got to find out why kids were bullying me, why they were making fun of me. because I wasn't being rude to them. And so again, I went outside and I wanted to make sure that nobody was watching me because I was so embarrassed about what I was ready to do. But I had to find out. So I went outside, middle of the day, and I found a corner of the building, the orphanage, and there was like a metal of the corner of the
Right.
building. And I very carefully make sure nobody's watching, and I went and looked in the metal like this corner, and I found out my lip was split. So I had a hair lip. Nobody told me I had a hair lip. Nice, not my sister. Of course, my mother died. And nobody told me I had a hair lip. I just found out by kids were making fun of me. So I thought, okay, now I know why kids were bullying me, why they were making fun of me. Um, so then I thought, oh, for sure, I'll make sure that I will never speak to anybody for the rest of my life because if I talk or laugh, my lips gonna split open more bigger than it already is. And so I thought, okay, I wasn't talking because I hated everybody. I didn't trust anybody. No reason to talk. And then I didn't want to smile because there was no reason. But now I know for sure, definite reason on top of what I was already thinking. Now I know for sure that I will never ever speak to anybody.
Wow.
And I will never smile. Rest of my life. At age 14, going forward, I was adopted by an American family in Utah. This family was just had a biggest heart that I could ever imagine. They had six of their own kids, and they adopted a little girl at age 4, and they wanted to adopt somebody who's a special needs a child, and at age 14, and who was handicapped, and I belonged to that category. So I was adopted, but prior to that, when I was in orphanage about 9 or 10 years there was a couple of Korean family that wanted to adopt me, and they called me into an office. And while they were looking me over, and inside of me, I would say to myself, and I thought, please take me home. Like I want to be able to wear pretty clothes, matching clothes. I want to be able to taste delicious food instead of food that they served me here. They, fed me. And I remember saying those things over and over. It's like begging them. But I didn't let them know because I was too embarrassed. But inside of me, just like, please, please take me home. Please stop me. But it didn't happen. Couple of occasions, couple of Korean family looked me over and they just went on without adopting me. So I thought for sure nobody wanted me because there's been a proof a couple of times, not only by my birth family, but here's a couple of other families that wanted to look over. So it didn't happen. So when I was start getting a letter from American family, and of course they had to do a translation. They would write to me in English, but then I had a translation so I could understand the letter. And I couldn't believe it. I thought there's just no way that they would want me just the way I am. Like I have so many issues here. I don't trust anybody. I don't love anybody. I don't like to smile. I don't like to talk. I have hair lip. My legs were crooked. Like who would want me? So I really didn't believe it, but they would keep writing me a letter trying to get me excited and saying that we're excited to adopt you, and everything. And finally, it came to a point where I ended up coming to America on May 27, 1975.
Wow.
Now you know how many years it's been. And when I was adopted, they showered me with a basic necessity to them. But to me, it was like a gift that is going to last forever, rest of my life. I was so overwhelmed because I thought they want me, they have me, they brought me to America, but they bought me a shoes, purse, dress, bra and underwear. I mean, like, They bought me more than one pair of pants. They bought me more than one dress. And I just was so overwhelmed. I was so grateful. Like, who would do that? Who would do that to me, for me? Like, just, it was good enough for them to adopt me and give me a hope, give me a better future. But they showered me with all these gifts of clothes. I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, and I said, this is all I need. I don't need anything anymore for the rest of my life because I'm done growing, obviously. So I don't need anything else. Well, so, we had a big family. They had a six of their own, and they adopted five additional kids.
Wow.
And so I remember one of the a Christmas, they says, what do you want for Christmas? And I said, I just want one thing. And they says, what is that? And I said, I want Bible. And their kids, the kids that she had by her birth, they would say, son Young, you could ask more than one gift. I'm like, what? Because yeah, you could ask. We're asking two or three gifts, and I said, no, 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 no. I got everything I want when I came here, so I don't need anything else. I just want a Korean Bible. That's all I wanted, so I could read it in my language. And so again, when they gave me that for Christmas, I was like, my wish, the things that I want is happening to me. Like they bought me a Bible. It's like I was so forever grateful. Um, so to make four, so I did everything I can. Like I still had a lot of doubts, and I had a problem with learning the English. I didn't know any alphabets or anything. So that summer that I came, my mother spent whole summer teaching me English, like teaching me alphabets, learning to say hi, how are you, what's your name, my name is, just basic, conversational sentences, so I could go to school and at least speak to my age groups. I was so grateful for her time and sacrifice that she made for me. And then they did all kinds of surgery. I mean, they fixed my legs, they fixed my lips,
Wow.
and I was just like, I still can't believe it.
Yeah.
I was just so, and to even this day, every single day I look in the mirror. I never looked in the mirror, and I have a mirror all over my house because there's a reason. Because it's just unbelievable still. Like, I just can't believe that I could look in the mirror and say that I'm okay. And I talk and my lip doesn't split, like what I was thinking. So I was thinking all the wrong ways, just the way how I was raised, how I was brought up, or how I was not raised. So we have all kinds of fears and doubts and things as we grow up, depending on how we were raised and brought up and what we hear, how other people treat us and things like that. But because I was so grateful, because of my new life that they gave me opportunities, and I make sure that I studied. So I did everything what they told me to do, like just go to school, get a good grades, and get a good paying job. And I did that just exactly what they told me to do. And it was like, I was grateful because they're giving me a step by step what to do, how to follow. So I did it. I landed up in my dream job, which is being a certified medical assistant. I did that for 33 years. I did it for 33 years. And I loved it. I loved getting up in the morning. I was so excited to go to bed at night just to get up in the morning to go to work. That's how excited I was. And it was my dream job because I was working with a doctor, helping patients, doing all kinds of giving shots, drawing blood, like you name it. I did it all, right? And I just loved it. And then I realized, like, after doing it for like 33 years, and I thought, wait a minute here. Why am I struggling at my dream job as much as I love my job, but my income was like living paycheck to paycheck and struggling? And I said, why is this? So I thought, well, I have to do something other than just working at my dream job. So along the way, to go forward a little bit, I was married at age 21, and then got divorced after about 14 years. I was, domestic violence a mental abuse relationship. And so I found myself as a single mother raising three girls. And I remember my ex-husband says, you're going to end up in a welfare. You're going to have to get a government help because to raise three kids. And I said to myself, nope, that's not me. That's not the plan that I'm going to go with. Before I wasn't telling him this. I was just telling myself because I didn't want to argue with him, right? So I just told myself, and I thought, nope, I have legs that I could walk. It works. I have both hands I could use. I have eyes I could see, mouth that I could speak, nose that I could see. Everything about me, it works. So I'm going to use everything that I have to make money. And so that wasn't my, a choice. I thought if I have to work extra job, I will. Take on an extra job, I will. So I did that. Because I realized like both of us were working when we were married with a two income. We're still living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
So just because you have a two income, two people working full time, it doesn't mean that, you have a good money that you could spend. We're still struggling.
Absolutely.
We were struggling to pay bills. We were using, a credit card to make a house payments and things like that.
Which is something so many people can relate to who are listening.
Right.
And, you've said so many things. I'm listening, just going, oh, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about that. So if we can take a pause here and just reflect a little on some of the things that you said, because the gratitude piece, I'm fascinated by that because, you had a long time where you hated the world. And now you find yourself in a place where you're grateful for everything, the one Christmas present, the two pairs of pants, whatever it is. Yeah. And I feel like that's one of the sort of the tenets of so many books on money and so many, people who have, all the way back to The Science of Getting Rich and Wallace Wattles' book from 1909, being in a state of gratitude. It has something magical happens when you're thinking and in gratitude. Evidence shows up that with the reward of being more abundant. Now that might be at any level. It can be a tiny little thing, but still noticing that evidence of abundance in the world. Your icky, gross chewing gum that you found on the ground. That sounds awful, but at the same time, in that context, it was evidence of some form of abundance and the idea that your intention you set for yourself. You didn't know how it was going to manifest, but it did. You made that happen in a way that, if you'd thought about it, you probably, looking back now, it's a really unusual way to enjoy chewing gum. But still, your intention was to have some chewing gum, and you got there.
Right.
So there's a whole mindset story that you can talk about for hours and hours behind all of this. Right. And, this in the most recent story you told about, with your husband and your family and needing to make the additional money, to have that knowing that you can do this, despite the fact that you really didn't know what you were going to do and you really didn't have much money at that point. And, it wasn't like it was laid out for you and you could see the path, which is a really interesting way to think about money, to have no real vision for how to go forward, but to still know in your heart that you'll make it happen. That's really key. And you've had a tough enough early beginning and sort of proven some things to yourself that magic does happen and, you did get adopted and everything. But for the people who maybe haven't, either it hasn't happened for them or they haven't paid attention to it, which I think is more the case usually because they're overlooking some of the smaller things. How do you develop that kind of abundant thinking where there's something better out there for you?
Yeah. That's really easy for me to realize, but hopefully that more people, your audience that is listening is to realize, like, look around the world. Like we hear there's rich people out there. Mm-hmm. So like, when I was thinking about like, I got to make more money, how am I going to do that? And I didn't have anybody within my circle, my parents or my siblings or my friends that I knew that was making a lot of money because we all were struggling. We were all living paycheck to paycheck. So I didn't, it's not like I had relatives per se say, oh, you know what, so-and-so made that, a lot of money. So I think I'm going to do what they do. But basically we could listen and look around and there's so many books and there's a people that are rich people out there. Elon Musk, there's a Warren Buffett, there's so many people that are out there that we hear about and they wrote books about and the things that they do. And, when I was transitioning and said, I've got to make more money, not because I want to have bigger things, better things, but I want to be able to live normal life, not having to live paycheck to paycheck, struggling to pay bills. And so I thought there's some people out there making money and I'm going to find out what it is. And I didn't have any other skills like you talked about. Only skills that I had was being a certified medical assistant. And in fact, my kids were worried. It's like, Mom, what are you going to do when you retire? Like, you haven't done anything else but that. Like, I know, but don't worry. But, doing that process of 33 years, along the way, when I found myself as a single mother raising kids, I thought, well, I've got to do some extra, side jobs. And so I did catering business. I did that for a couple of years. On my day off, I would serve lunches for doctors and nurses at my clinic and other clinics and private doctors' offices and things like that. And I did a Korean cooking. So I made money doing that. I did that for a couple of years. And then there's the times where my husband and I, when we were married, my first husband and I, when we were married, I was selling vacuums at night to make ends meet. So here we are. Like I'm bouncing back and forth. What I'm trying to tell you is even though there's two people working, we were struggling. So I ended up selling vacuums at night to make the ends meet. As a single mother, I took on a side job working my only day off doing catering business. And I did that for a few years. And then after that, I did a detail house cleaning. I owned 6 to 7 homes to clean. And I couldn't clean that all day on my day off. So then I ended up carrying that into weekends. And so I would clean 3 or 4 houses on, my day off on Wednesdays. And then on the, Saturday and Sundays, I would clean. That's how I survived. And still, we couldn't still go on vacations or anything like that. So I thought, there's some people out there making money, so I'm going to do it, whatever it is. So 2014, I started looking into becoming a real estate investor. And I told my doctor, I had to warn him and say, guess what? I'm planning on retiring, pretty quick. And he says, when? I go, within a year. And this was 2014. And he says, can you afford it? And I go, no. And he says, do you have any money saved up? I said, no. And so, but I was scared inside of me. I was kind of scared because I didn't have any other skills but that. But I have this thing, it's called a mindset. There's some people out there making money. And I'm going to find out what it is. And I have no clue.
I want to stop you there too, because so many, that's such a great mindset, because if they can do it, why can't you do it? But I don't think that's the most typical way to think about it. I think most people think, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm assuming something here, but I think most people think they were able to do it, but I can't. I'm not them. I couldn't do what they did.
Yeah, people tell me all the time. They say, Sun Young, you're lucky. And I go, no, I'm not lucky. And they said, you're so smart. And I said, well, I'm not so smart. I mean, seriously, it's about shifting your mindset, because when, for example, going back to really quickly, if my sister says, I'm going to take you to this place, and that's where they're going to teach you how to walk. And if I said, no, I will not go no matter what circumstances, I don't want to separate from you. I don't care if I didn't walk, but I just want to be with you. That's it.
Yeah.
And if I focused on that, I would never be where I am today. I would never find out how life is with walking. I would never find out. And there's another thing, like the gum that I chewed. I accomplished what I was going to do. I want gum. I want to chew gum. I'm going to find a ways. When I came to America, and I'm kind of bouncing back and forth here because we're kind of comparing the
Right.
mindset here and there, right?
Right.
And then the actions that I took. So I chewed a gum. It was a little bit crunchy, and I didn't know any other than just, I did the coolest thing ever. I chewed a gum. Wow, I accomplished what I wanted. When I came to America, sometime soon after coming here, I ended up buying a gum, brand new gum. It was a bubble gum, I remember, because I saw other kids blowing bubbles, and like, I want to do that. So then I bought a bubble gum. And you know what? When I chewed that brand new gum, I was shocked. It had a flavors.
I'm
And I
shocked
just
too because
said,
it was old.
oh my gosh, gum has a flavors? I didn't realize that gum had a flavor until I bought a brand new gum to chew. So when we're thinking back to the actions that we take, so let's say I chew the gum, the chewed gum, and I thought it was coolest thing ever that I've done at age, 10 or 11. And then if I had never chewed a brand new gum coming to America, I would have never known the comparison of the gum had a flavors. And when I chewed that brand new gum, it was a smooth. There was no crunchiness ever. No crunchy, had a lot of flavors.
So are you saying that there are so many things you're saying? Is it about taking opportunity? Is it about kind of, I don't know. I find so much symbolism in what you're saying.
There's a lot of things in that process.
There are.
So you figure, okay, setting a goal and going for it.
Yeah.
Don't give yourself excuses like, I can't do it, I don't have any money, I'm too embarrassed, no, I'm not going to chew a gum. No, you set a goal and you just go for it. You find the ways, right?
Right.
You don't wait for someone to say, oh, you want to chew a gum? Here's a gum for you. No, you don't wait for opportunities to come to you. You just find a way, so you just do it. And then when you find, like once you got there, it's like, okay, well, there's a chew gum. Now I'm going to chew a new gum. I don't have to chew a gum that has been chewed and walked on. I'm going to buy me a new gum and chew it. And so in that process, like I discovered, oh my gosh, the gum is really smooth. When I chew it, it was smooth and it was lots of flavors. It was delicious. And, it's like I could even blow bubbles and just, things like that. And so so in other words, like if you accomplish a small goal and if you don't go bigger, if you don't reach for bigger goals, you'll never find out the results beyond what you could do.
That's
do you know what
really
I'm saying?
Good. Yeah, that's great. And when we go back to your sister and taking you there, that was heartbreaking. But at the same time, there was such opportunity that came of that. So I wouldn't want that for someone, but at the same time, there was this amazing, benefit to going through that. But you holding on to her and saying, I don't care about walking, that's this resistance that we get, because all we know is these things that make us feel secure or whatever, which translates to what you ended up doing to actually make a lot of your money, which is a big unknown, actually, and something that a lot of people resist. A lot of people are too afraid to take the kind of risk you took that ultimately made you a lot of money. So can we go there now?
Yes, we could go there. Yeah, and
I don't actually want to go there, but we don't have enough time to stay on this forever, which I'd like to do.
Exactly, there's a lot of resistance that we face every day, every single moment, every day, every week, every month. Yes. And we have to just, weed out the noises. So when I decided to retire, no money, no savings, I just had like $10, and that wasn't enough for me to pay any bills because they would bounce anyway. So as my doctor says, yes, I can't retire because I have to have X amount of money. I got to at least save $1 million. But there's me. I'm thinking if I continue to work at my dream job, I would never, ever make $1 million. Not even. So with that mindset, I just ended up retiring. I didn't think about how or why, but in the transition after I spoke about it and I went to like a seminar for, becoming a real estate investors, because when I got remarried with my second husband, which is right now I'm married to, when we got married, we ended up renting the house that I was living in there. And then we just bought ourselves together. We bought a house. So I had that rental. And I wasn't making any money because I didn't have any tools. I didn't have any educations. I didn't have any, like I never discovered what to do. It all just went by what people have told me. As long as you have a rental home, you can make money. And I said, okay, that sounds good. Not knowing any skills, I just did that. I was broke. I was going in the hole. So because I didn't have a skill, I wanted to get some skills and knowledge on how to make money on a rental home. So I went to real estate seminar, and then at there they said real estate investors could make lots of money. And I said, well, really? Because I'm not making any money. I'm losing money. That's what I'm here.
Yeah.
But they says when you make so much money, you need to diversify your money. And there's something called option trading that we could teach you. And also that's going to cost extra money for you to learn. But here it is. You could use that, diversify your money and do option trading. And I said, what does it take? Like, I have never heard about option trading. What is it? And they says, well, working with the stock market and you have to use the computers and all this. And I was like, okay, I'm out. I hate computers. I'm not a tech savvy. No, thank you. It's like automatically feeling the fear because I have to learn scarcity skills. Computer? You got to be kidding me. No.
And so, look how quickly we say no to things.
Yes, we do.
It's just knee jerk. It's automatic. We don't already understand it, know it. There's not even like, I could learn that. That's our just automatic subconscious programming to. Yeah.
It is, because I don't like computers. And when I was working and I had to check emails, and I didn't check emails because I just hate tech stuff. I'm not a tech person, And so I was really struggling with the emails and things like that. And so I thought, computer, no thank you. So I just automatically, like you mentioned, no thank you, instead of saying, what if? What if I could learn this? No, automatically. We all do this. I'm guilty of it. And so I said, no, thank you. So then my husband and I, we started looking at the properties, and we bought a lot of properties, not having any money, but because I learned some skills and things. And so we ended up buying properties out of state, rentals, and just, using the resources. And all of a sudden we became like, we had all these things without a lot of money. And we own all this, we created ourselves a lot of good portfolio with the real estate rentals, 2 rentals. And I had a rentals in my Utah. And then I had 4 properties I bought in Florida. And, I'm like, this is crazy. And so I thought, okay. So then as I was going forward and going to auctions, trying to buy some more properties, and I thought, this is nuts. This also takes me out of home. And I wanted to retire. I wanted to stay home. And I thought, okay, well, I cannot touch my retirement. So what I did is I ended up taking this option trading take on as a hobby. I thought, I'm going to learn this as a new hobby because I have all the time in the world, and I'm going to learn this hobby to make money instead of spending money. So I practiced it with the virtual money for a whole year, and it doesn't take a whole year, but I did it on purpose just because I was used to working for 33 years, 9-to-5 job, and so I thought I'm going to treat this just like my new job. I'm the trainee, but I'm not going to get anything out of it other than just practicing the skills that I learned. Something that I'm willing to do, something that I want to learn new skills, something that is scarcity is a huge challenge for me, but I'm going to learn it because I have the time and I have disciplined myself, and I was motivated that I'm going to learn, not knowing the results. Well, by practicing and learning and going through a lot of mistakes, and I ended up discovering the best strategies ever, and I gave itself a name called Unique Miracle System because this strategy is just so simple because remember, I don't like computers. And I thought, okay, if I can make this kind of money with the virtual money, maybe, just maybe I should find a ways to come up with some funds to do this with the real money.
Okay.
And so I ended up, my husband and I, of course, borrowing some money from home equity loan to get a loan and start making money and doing it. And what I did is like, remember 35,000, 40,000, like even with the, what is it, the overtime and whatnot for 33 years. And I thought if I could do this on my own, making anywhere between 50 to 60,000 all by myself, just with option trading, I will be set for life. Like I don't need anything else. And I ended up making 178 and I was just so shocked. What I did is I thought, okay, if I make 50 to 60,000, but I'm going to set a goal to make 100,000. What do I have to do to make 100,000 a year with the fake money? How much do I have to make a month? How much do I have to make a week? Let alone how much do I have to make a day? I broke it down step by step, small steps, instead of going, oh, how am I going to make $100,000, Because it's overwhelming, right? Because I have
Yes.
never done it before. But if I broke it down, knowing what I studied, that's okay, I can make 50,000 in 3 days. I may, 2,000 in half hour. I did all that because I have a proof with my virtual money. So with that information, using the resources, I was able to set a goal and then taking a smaller step, step by step goals. That's how I made over $100,000.
Wow.
Then a year later, so that was 2017. So I practiced the whole year for 2016, 2017, I made 178,000. At the end of 2017, my husband decided to retire 2 years later because I ended up retiring in 2015, exactly a year later from the conversations that I was having with my doctor. And then my husband retired. We took his retirement money, knowing that I know what I was able to make, and I turned that 164,000. He worked for the government for 34 years and took that retirement, and I turned that into 604,000 in 11 months.
Wow.
We were just like, oh my gosh, this is just great. Better than having investment companies invest for you.
Right. Right. Wow,
So
I love this on so many levels. And you put the time and effort in. This wasn't a magical thing. You spent a year training yourself on this so that you
yes,
could get
yes,
comfortable. So it's not like you're the most wild risk taker ever. It's also a complicated part of the financial world that a lot of people don't mess with because, like, what even is it? And so I find that very interesting that that's the direction you went. And, maybe I do think a lot of people listening don't really know, what options trading is.
yeah.
So if you want to just kind of briefly explain it, but also just from your perspective, is this something that pretty much anyone can learn? Because a lot of people are going to think, this is, I don't even invest in any kind of equities. So this is beyond, like, you have to do that first before you could do this. And anyway, I love when people make financial activities simple because it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be as complicated as the financial world likes to make it seem.
Yeah, that's what I exactly did is because I'm not really good with computers and things. And it doesn't take you a year to learn this. The reason I did that is because I just wanted to stay busy. I took it on as a hobby and so forth. And along the way, I discovered this unique miracle system. But options trading is basically, it involves buying and selling contracts that gives the right, but not an obligation to buy or sell a stock at a specific price. So in other words, like if you want to buy or sell stocks, you just go for it. Like you just buy the Apple, for example, like the Apple price right now, I would say like $185 per share. And you just click to buy to a stock and you just click under ask price. But with the options, you just choose like a strike prices. It's already in the platform, and you just have so many strike prices to choose from, and you also choose like expiration date, like how long you want to hold this trade, for like 3 days or 2 weeks or 3 months or 6 months or a year, right? With the stocks, you just buy it and then you just sell it when the stock prices goes up, hoping to make money when the stock price is up. A lot of times that's how people do it. So option trading is like you're getting involved in a stock market. And let's say if, like I said, just an example of the price difference between options and stocks. If you were to buy one share of Apple at like 181.59 right now, I would just look at it really quick. Yeah, $181.59.60 is a live trading per share. If you were to buy one share of stocks, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Okay? It's going to cost you like 18. Okay, so buying one share, cost purchase of share would cost around $181,590. $181,590. Where options, if you were to buy, because you could choose a strike prices and you pay a premium. So in other words, like if we want to buy something, we have to pay so much money to get into to buy a product. So same thing with the options. Like you want to get into an options and you pay premium. So it's going to cost you like maybe $3.50 per share per premium. So it's going to only cost you like $350 to buy one, get into a one quantity or one contract of option trading. See the difference? One share of stocks, $181,590 of one share of stocks versus $350. And then you got to add like a brokerage commission, which is like $1.50. Really cheap.
Okay. So
you don't pay, you don't pay like a commissions for stocks.
Right.
When you do it yourself.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the price difference. And then because of the strategies that I came out with, it's so simple. I don't read a lot of fancy things. I just look into a few things that matters, looking at the markets, how it's going to go up and down per company that I choose to do. And how much am I going to, like, so if I was to set up for like a 40-day or 6 months, but I could get out next day, depending on the market. You don't have to hold it out for 6 months. You don't have to hold it out for a year.
So for clarity's sake, the share price for the Apple stock you said was $189 and some.
No, $181.59 right now.
Okay.
But I think it could be like 181.70 or 80, because it's a market is alive right now.
Right,
I'm looking at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how did you get to the next number? I thought you said 180,000.
181. So if you were to buy one stocks, right, of the Apple, okay, just a one share, and it's gonna cost. So Apple, if we're to just buy one shares here, we're gonna go to ask price here. Yep. And let's just do one. Let's see. So, okay. So one. Okay. So 181 is 181.46 right now. So if you were to buy 10 shares, it's going to cost 180,000, but just for one, it'll be 18,000 versus 350 for the options.
Okay. Okay.
If
so much cheaper way to go
18,000.
is to buy the option, but then you have to know what to do with that option contract.
Oh yeah, you have to know. You have to, buy it, and you have to get out a certain time frame. There's just it's not really difficult, but I have never heard about option trading ever. Never. Nobody ever talks about it. Everybody talks about buying and selling stocks. And because there's a few more extra steps to, get into options,
Right.
but look at the price difference. Like if you were to buy one, comparing one options and buying one stocks or selling one stocks, 18,000 versus, $350.
Yeah. Okay.
Huge difference.
And what is the potential there if you do buy the option? So you've paid $350 for it. What might you earn on that? What could the return be?
Oh, well, yeah, I could earn. So basically, I could earn quite a bit with that. Let's just say I'm going to go there really quick.
I don't mean to make you calculate here, but yeah.
Oh, no, it's okay. So if you were to do that, if you were to just do options and the max profit, okay, so if you were to, it's going to be, so that's just buying that's just buying stocks. But if I was to do options, trading really quick, I go to trade, and you just have to like find two strike prices. You have to click on two strike prices, right? So can you see my screen?
Are you sharing your screen? I can see you.
No, I'm not. You cannot see. Okay. Well, I'm not sharing screen, but I'm just going to show you really quick.
Yeah, and I if it's too long a
No, you won't do it. So basically, if I was to buy that and then that really quick and commission, okay, so max profit would be, let me just go down to 1 here. Really. Okay, there we go. So max profit will be, it's going to cost only, right now the price is changing in the Apple.
Yeah.
So right now it's like 181.46 now per share. So I'm only spending $755 to buy one contract, and I'm going to make $1,496.
Okay, that's a great example. Okay? Yeah.
So that's a max profit. But I could make that in 1 hour. I could make that in 2 hours or 1 day or 2 days or 3 days. So if you were to make that in 7 days, spending $750, where can you make almost, close to $1,500?
Yeah.
Well, without investing a lot of money, without investing over $100,000 or $250,000, right?
Yeah. I love that. So now I know you have a system. I hate that we're running short on time here. So yes. I want you to, because it is something where, I feel like people's reaction is, this is super cool. I'd love to do this, but there's got to be a big risk. I've always heard that it's risky, so I think that you've probably figured out a system that minimizes, the risk.
Yes.
And of course, risk is also how we make money, which could be another entire show right now, because the markets are so crazy right now that I'm sure you're thinking this through and adjusting things. I hope you'll do some kind of masterclass or something on how to handle things right now. But what do you have for people where they could get introduced to this type of work?
Well, they could, contact me through email, Dream Big, Set Goals, because my life is all about, setting goals and making my dream come true. And then they could, let me know with your podcast name and saying, that would be the secret so that I could give them a discount.
Oh.
And without, if you just have a money, even $500 to invest, that's not talking about paying for the education part, right?
Right.
But if you just have a 500, you could turn that 500 into even 4,000 or 5,000 in, I would say, about a month or two.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And I know you have some programs. You teach this work.
Yes.
And I love that you do that because it's worked for you so well and changed your life and, really given you financial freedom. And now you're sharing that with other people. And you've proven it. I mean, this isn't something you learned yesterday and now you're teaching, which happens. So.
And the difference between me versus other traders is that I teach them live while the market is alive. And I do like a holding on hands, situations, that kind of strategy. Like I'll say, okay, we're gonna get into option trading with Boeing or Tesla or, Alibaba. And then I'm choosing this strike prices. So I want you to choose this. So just do like, I take a right step, you take a right step. I take a left, you take a left step. Just like that. Just because I think that's the only way that you don't waste your time and your money, because our money is hard earned for most people. I remember I worked so hard to earn my money. And, of course, everything is a risk, right? But when we know we have the resources and educations, how to avoid the losses. It's like right now, the market is so like really, really down, like really bearish market, all red, all the way across the platform. But I'm able to increase just within the last couple of days, I was able to increase like 20, 30,000 just because market is down.
Well, and they always say recessions are not good. Obviously, we don't want them, but the people who know what they're doing can definitely make a lot of money. And I think, as bad as this is, I've lived long enough to have seen a few of these and not really, I didn't know enough. And so I didn't take advantage of the opportunity that's actually here right now. So not that I want this, I'm not saying that, wishing it away actually, but since it's here for the moment, instead of being so fearful about it and just bailing altogether, which I think is, again, that knee-jerk reaction, there are ways to leverage this for yourself.
Yeah, a lot of times people are scared, and so they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm losing like $50,000 or $100,000," and so they'll just lose it, and then they just feel horrible, and they're scared to do anything.
Right.
Instead of sometimes you have to ride the ride, right? So sometimes, like, for example, because I worked in the medical field, like, when you're sick and doctors give you antibiotic, it's not going to get better overnight, but it's going to take at least, they give you for 10 days. And sometimes they'll say, you'll get worse. Sometimes it could get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
So same thing with the markets too, right? And you don't close everything. You don't sell everything up because of the scarcity.
Right.
Because, that's when a lot of people lose money. And then I have a clients that have done stocks for 30 years. They sold and bought 30 years. And they haven't made any money, and they just love this option trading course that I taught because like she's just like she could see the results just right away, such a less time and cost like very little fraction of the time. Is just crazy. It's crazy.
Well, you have me intrigued. So I've been fascinated by this since we talked as well, and so okay. I am going to put all your information in the show notes on how to take your course. And if you'd like to give the listeners a discount, I would be very appreciative of that. And
yes, 50%
I'll put
off.
all of this in the notes and I'll get that information from you. And Sun-Young, you're amazing. And I think your story is so inspiring. And I'm so grateful that you were here today. And I really think people can learn a tremendous amount from you in so many ways. And I appreciate that you're spending your retirement teaching everybody how to have this, freedom in your own life. So I think that's very generous. You could just be traveling right now. So.
Yes. Well, I did go like Italy for 1 month and go to Korea for 1 month after I retired because we could do that.
Yeah.
And you have enough money to do things, instead of saying, because a lot of times when I used to work for like a company, I say, oh, I do have 2 weeks off that I have a pay, but I have no money to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Or versus when I used to travel, it's like, oh, I don't have any money. I got here with airlines and then places to stay. Now I'm broke. And so then you ended up sitting in a hotel. I've done those things. It's like, no. So that's not a freedom. This is a true freedom. Finding a ways to make your own money and having never running out of money and being able to travel and making money while you're traveling. Look at the phone and say, oh my gosh, I'm making 50,000. You know, I was like shocked when I did that. You know, it's like going to Florida, going to Disney World with kids, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm making 40,000 in 2 days. You know, it's just amazing.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
So, yeah, it is a lot of
Okay.
fun.
Well,
Thank you.
yeah, I really appreciate. Oh, and people can follow you on Instagram and on TikTok. Your TikTok handle is up there.
Yes.
Author Sun Young. You have books. We didn't even talk about that. So
Yeah.
I would ask people to keep following you. Invest in Yourself. That's your first book. You also have a
Yes.
book on marriage that's also pretty interesting.
Yeah, opposite. I'll give them like 50% off really for your audience, but
Okay.
they have to mention Money and You podcast, you know, with Michelle Perkins, because yeah, and that's the secret word. And also they could sign up for my, online course
And you have
for
YouTube
that.
shows about what you do as well.
Yes, exactly. And then
Okay.
I have a lot of testimonies from the, satisfied, very happy clients that I could also show. You know, you have to really prove your work. You know,
Hmm.
you can't. And this is what I do today. Like I still do option trading just because, that's the only thing that found me a freedom of money that is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, life is just so different. Like before, when things break, I would say, oh, it's going to take me a year to save up enough money to, replace a broken fridge. Or,
Hmm.
now it's like, what projects can I do?
Hmm.
Because I'm able to, when things break, I could just replace it right now.
Yeah.
Like money is not an issue.
Right. And
That's the true freedom.
you're right.
And
Absolutely.
going on airline tickets on a first class. I've
Hmm.
never done that before. Like first class,
Yeah.
that's a true freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about mindset with regard
Yes.
to that all day too, because sometimes
Yes.
that's a hurdle as well. But maybe we'll have you back on the show sometime, and we'll
I
we'll
would love
address
to
that.
because your podcast is wonderful because it is a real if you don't have enough if you don't have enough money, you're gonna end up with a lot of problems. And you have enough money, it could solve a lot of problems. And
That's
so
right.
this podcast that you have for your audience is just awesome. I'm just so very appreciative and very grateful that I have an opportunity to be in your podcast and talk about the money and what the change that it made for me and my family,
Yeah.
and that I'm able to do to help people in the world that really wants to achieve that freedom, and they don't have to be a millionaire or billionaires. It
Yeah.
could be just everyday people.
Well, and you proved today on the show the importance of educating yourself, which is really what this is about. So you can, this is yet another way to help you find
Yes,
education. So thank you again. And
thank you.
yeah, I so appreciate you and your life journey. And, very, very happy for you the way it has transformed, but you transformed it. So
Yes,
yeah, wasn't luck.
it's all
But
about taking opportunity.
that's right. That's right.
And
That's a great
taking
way to wrap up, actually. That's
well,
excellent.
and then taking actions, because when we have to take ourselves where there's an opportunity, you could hear about it, and there's the people that will hear my stories. It's a real story. It's a lot of pains that I've been through, a lot of struggles, a lot of obstacles, but I've been to places where heard a lot of motivational speakers, and I go home and I say, I swear I'm going to do this. I know I'm going to do it. And then you go home and back to normal things.
Yeah.
Normal people, normal routines, normal, everything's normal. You have to take actions, and you don't take actions like when it's convenient, when it's the right timing. It's not, there's no right timing.
Yeah.
It's all about how bad you want it, how bad you want to change your life, and you got to take actions now. And that's one of the reasons why this book is about. Like I'm guilty of using all these excuses, like not now, whenever, another day, next week, never, one day, someday in the future. I've used all these excuses for 30 years, and it never got me anywhere.
Yeah.
So really, truly taking actions.
Thank you. That's
Thank you.
perfect. Perfect. Yeah, perfect thing to tell people. So thank you so much. And audience, thank you for being here. We love having you listen to the Money and You show. And if you enjoyed this show with Sun Young, please follow her and share the show with your friends. Please subscribe to the Money and You podcast and rate and review the show, because that always helps us to have amazing guests like Sun Young on the show. So thank you so much. Thank you, UBN Go, for helping us get this out on the air. And we'll see you next week.